Hi, you're listening to Scribble Talk, Tech Leaders Podcast, a new series from your favorite Scribble Talk family. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and I'll be sitting down with our entrepreneurs who are building incredible companies to share their stories, discuss their career, and most importantly, their entrepreneurial journey and how they are positively making an impact in our industry. Today's guest is Ganesh Shankar. Ganesh is the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of RFPIO, the leading software for response management. RFPIO's AI-enabled technology serves the sales process, empowering organizations to effectively respond to the information requests they receive, ultimately increasing win rates and revenue. Leveraging extensive experience in product management, software, and leadership, Shankar ensures organizational excellence for RFPIO employees, customers, and their investors. He is a strong advocate for diversity and inclusion, championing equality in the workplace. Led by Shankar, RFPIO has been ranked by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing private companies and counts many Fortune 500 companies as customers. Ganesh was recognized by the Software Report as one of the top 50 software as a service chief execs of 2022, awarded the Ernst Young Entrepreneur of the Year, P&W winner in 2020, voted top CEO to work for in Portland by Comparably, and honored in Portland Business Journal's 40 Under 40. Welcome, Ganesh, to Scribble Talk Tech Leaders Podcast.
Likewise, Bhaskar, it was great being on this podcast. We've been talking for so long. I feel honored to be on this podcast. I appreciate the invite. I'm looking forward to talking to the listeners and talking to you. Thanks for inviting.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Ganesh, so let's talk from the very beginning. Where were you born? And let's talk about your early schools and educations.
Yeah, I was born and raised in southern part of India, a place called Coimbatore. That's where I was born, and I did my schooling, and I did my undergrad, and I did my postgrad. Pretty much everything throughout my life. I lived in Coimbatore, and then for just about 2.5 years, I worked in Chennai. In 2007-8 and mid part of 9, and then I went back to Coimbatore in 2009 and then stayed there until 2011, and then moved to the States in 2011. So far almost 11.5 years I've been in the States.
Got it. Coimbatore is also my hometown, so it's good. And what do you have any early childhood memories of growing up in Coimbatore?
Yeah, there are a lot of, like I said, I was born and raised pretty much my entire, childhood and teenage life. And, even I got married. There's a lot of memories. So, different stages of memories are there. So again, it may need another podcast to share the memories. So, everything, right, from my, if I have to take out the personal memory, my first daughter was born in Coimbatore. We got married, so my second daughter was born here in the States, but my first daughter was born in Coimbatore Hospital, and we migrated when she was just barely about 7 months old. So that was my personal side. But of course, now we have a pretty decent size office in Coimbatore as well. So, there are a lot of memories professionally also these days.
Nice. That's solid. So I know you went back to Coimbatore and then you moved back to US. So talk us through your career journey until you started RFPIO.
Yeah. Though I run a technology company today, I'm not a technical guy, to be honest. I did my undergrad in BSc, Bachelor of Science in Computer Science. That's when I realized it's not for me. the coding part is not for me, and I pursued my MBA in marketing and finance. That's where I did my post graduation. Part of that graduation program, I got placed into, I don't know if you even know the company called India Bulls. They were into stockbroking. So that's where I started my career as a relationship manager, basically a feet on street sales rep, trying to sell brokerage accounts and insurance, mutual funds. That's where I started my career. And, like I mentioned before, I moved to Chennai in 2009. So I finished my MBA in 2005. And then a couple of years I worked in Coimbatore for India Bulls. And then I moved to Chennai for another broking company, stockbroker in Chennai as a sales manager. And at the time I quit there, I was pretty much handling the entire South India for sales. This is in 2009. I was managing pretty much all parts of South India from sales. That's when 2008-9 market crash came in. That's when I realized, okay, that is not my cup of tea. Into stockbroking. So I switched my line of career. I went into technology as an individual contributor, as a business analyst. Basically, it was a step down, because I was heading the entire. I was head of sales. And then I decided to change my career, and I went into an individual contributor role as a business analyst, and then got into product management. And before starting RFPIO, I was working for another software company as an associate director of products. I was managing the entire product portfolio. And then that's when I got exposed to RFPs and proposals, because I was part of the pre-sales team, helping my sales team. So that kind of prompted me to join hands with my current co-founders, Sundar and Shankar, who were also subject matter SMEs at their respective areas, because I was the subject matter expert for product, and Sundar, my current CTO, was the subject matter expert for engineering and security. Shankar, my current COO and co-founder, was the subject matter expert for implementation and training in the previous organization. So all of us had a fair share of contributing to RFPs. So we were going through a lot of RFPs and spending a lot of time. So that's kind of what prompted us to look into the market of RFPs.
Nice. What an interesting journey there. And what triggered you to start the company with your co-founders?
So it's a great question, Bhaskar. I jokingly say this in everywhere I speak. I don't have, as a company, we don't have this cool startup garage story for the most part, or a hostel or a dorm room story like Facebook or Snapchat. We don't have any of those cool stories. It's truly, we were looking into the market back in 2015 when we were spending way more time. End of the day, if you look at it, I was there for 10 years. In the company, almost 10 years I was working there, and I've contributed to a lot of RFPs, but never in my 10 years of time, even a word mention of RFP in my job description as a product manager. As SME, it was not. But at the end of the day, I cannot say no to RFP because that was our breadwinner for the company. So beyond my primary job as a product manager, because as a primary job, I have to make sure product is get delivered on time, sprint planning, release planning, all those things were taking my primary job. And then on top of it, I have to, help my sales team to respond to RFPs and security questionnaires. So to be honest, we looked into the market to see if there are any technology out there to solve this problem, right? Back in 2015. And in fact, by then we also used different workaround solutions. I've used, Confluence, I've used SharePoint, I've used Google Docs, I've used Microsoft Excel, I've used Salesforce. These are all workaround solutions that didn't quite, help helping. So we looked into the market to see if there are any purpose-built solution to solve this problem. So that's when we realized that there's not a great solution out there. So we decided to take the reins on our own hand. 6.5 years now. Every workaround solution, be it Google, be it Microsoft, be it Atlassian, that we have used, as a worker, they use RFPIO today. They all are our customer today. So they use RFPIO to primarily solve the problem that, it's a very fulfilling, looking back and how we have come across. So it's been a great journey, and we are pretty much enjoying every single day. So that's kind of what prompted us.
I mean, like when you started, it was an initial pain point for you, and then you realized there should be a better way of doing that. Then you had this idea to develop. So how did you start from this initial idea of, there should be a better way of doing things to come out with a very fast version of it? And once you freezed it, how do you then take it up to the priorities? How did it change from where it is today?
Yeah, if I look back, one thing we did really well in the initial stages, Bhaskar, is, again, I even when I speak to, fellow entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who are trying to start companies, right? Again, it was not intentional, but I think it worked out in our favor, because like I mentioned, the last day when I quit my job, I handed off my laptop to the IT person. I said, you guys can delete anything in this laptop, but please make sure you're not deleting this folder where I've kept all the RFPs and proposals that I've helped sales team. And it was, to be exact, it was 465 RFPs that I've responded, and I gave that file. So what it tells me is we had so much of manpower. Similarly, Sundar, my CTO, Shankar, our CEO, had a similar experience. But what we did not do is we did not come to the market assuming we know everything. Though we have responded to quite a lot of RFPs, we did not come. So what we did is we created a alpha version and beta version. So I quit my job in 2015 December. So the product was almost ready, but we did not go to the market until June of 2016. Almost we took 6 months to validate the idea. Even if you look at a lot of reviews today, what was our first version of RFPIO is completely different from what we have today. It has evolved so much. Again, though we had a ton of experience, if you combine them together, probably we're looking at least 35, 40 years of man-years of experience working between the three of us on the RFPs alone. So still we did not say, hey, we know everything. We validated that. We approached ex-colleagues who worked with us in the past. And we asked them, hey, especially for sales folks who left the company, we approached them and said, hey, can you take a look at this one, see if this, we did not go and ask them, hey, can you buy this? We went and asked them, can you give us feedback? And people were very, very much willing to support. And then when we showed them, it naturally, created an interest with them. Then they said, hey, I can introduce to my pre-sales manager, or I can introduce to my proposal manager, I can introduce to my bid manager. So it kind of morphed into that. So we tapped into the acquaintance that we already knew. And it's as you know, RFPs are a universal problem. It's not a niche problem. It is everybody know, and especially if you're talking to a sales rep beyond a scale, they know what an RFP is. So it to be honest, it worked in our favor. So the learning there is, we should not assume the problem that we face is the universal problem. The problem that we are trying to solve is what people are going to look for. Your problem is not someone else's problem, right? You have to understand what is the common theme of problems that you're trying to solve, then go against it. So that's something we did really well. Back in the day, I don't know if you know those things, we are the first one, I can guarantee say any RFP software in the market, we were the first one to say, when you receive an RFP, no matter what format it is, a questionnaire, it could be Word, it could be Excel, it could be PDF, we can process it as is. You don't need to copy that and put it into a template, because those technologies out there at that time were only capable of handling a CSV or a template that they gave to the customer, so that you receive an RFP, you copy that question and put it into a template, and template is loaded into the software. That's not how it works. It creates more work than what it should be. So we were the first one to came into, but we did not have that understanding before. until we spoke to so many of them and said, this is the biggest pain point that we have. Again, automation is not a pain point. The biggest pain point, every customer comes up with their own format of questionnaire RFPs. How do we respond to that in a meaningful way? How do we collaborate with my SMEs in a meaningful way? That kind of gave us a clue of what problem to solve, and we really solved that problem. And I think we still are the best in class. No one else can, even can come closer to how we can process, be it Word, Excel, or a PDF document.
Got it. No, what a powerful journey there. Thank you again. After you started it, was there any challenges? I'm sure there was a lot of challenges, but what challenges did you have to overcome at the beginning of your journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. Like I think you professed it. Every business, as a startup, as a business, every stage of business will have its own challenges. If we are not immune to hope. I cannot say we don't have challenges, right? Like I mentioned initially, none of us, the three co-founders of this company, were not, serial entrepreneurs or had a big bank balance. So we were living paycheck to paycheck. Generating funds to create a legal entity was itself a challenge. How do we even know? Because we have to go through that challenge, and then we needed funds to develop the product. That was a challenge at some point of time, and we were successfully able to raise funds. Then became a challenge bringing the first paying customer. Bringing the first paying customer became a challenge. That's somehow we did that, and then bringing first employee outside of your known circle, right? Who can trust. They have no clue who Ganesh is, who RFPIO is, but convincing them to join the startup was a big challenge. Then once you cross that, then the problem gets a different level. How do you again? Problems are different at each stage of the business. That's product. So every stage has its own problem. Today, if you ask, how do we maintain this? I feel like we were fortunate enough to maintain the culture in the initial stages, and we were able to bring that. So my next challenge: how can we maintain the same culture as we scale? We should be exiting this year at 450 employees. 2016, 6 years before, I was sitting alone in an 83 square foot office. Even my co-founders were working part-time. Right, now we are almost 450 employees. So the scale are at a different scale. How do we maintain the same culture when we were small, 1 employee to 10 employee, became 100 employee? Now we are almost getting to 500 employees. How can we maintain the same culture as we scale this business? So, every phase of the company, I think that's going to be some challenges.
Totally, I think well said there, Ganesh. Again, now. How did you then decide, okay, you are starting in Coimbatore, working here, you moved to US, and then why did you choose Oregon as your base? And talk us through about that journey of choosing a location, but still keeping your hometown as one of the locations for development. Talk us through about that.
Although I no longer live in Oregon, I moved to Texas. The company still is headquartered in Oregon. The reason why we started in Oregon is because it was convenient. All three of us were in Oregon, the co-founders, because we worked in the same company before. We had the luxury of collaborating face to face pretty much on a daily basis, right? That's when it naturally started there. And going back to Coimbatore, we did consider other locations. It is, one is, of course, it is like paid forward to the cities that we came from. But also Coimbatore, I feel like there's a lot of talent available. To take an example of myself, right? When in 2009, I was looking back, as I was in Chennai, I want to go back to Coimbatore. There's not a lot of options, especially in a technology company, right? Not a lot. But if you look at the talent pool availability in Coimbatore, is tremendous. Number of universities, number of best in class colleges out there are. We have some of the best colleges even in India. But as a technology product companies, there are limited options, right? We said that this is in 2000. Early 2016, when we decided to set up an office, we looked at different places and we decided Coimbatore is the best, opportunity because of talent availability, because of less crowded product companies. So, and then, COVID came and things changed, things are different. People can work from it. But this is, I'm talking about pre-COVID where, people are required to be in office. And, we literally, had so many people who joined us. And we still have now, even till date, we have the core almost, early 40, 45 people who joined us till or with the company, maybe one or two who left, not because, of other reason, because of they one got married and she went to a different place and one wanted to pursue higher studies. Other than that, we still have the core team intact, right? That's the beauty of Coimbatore, because these are people. If you look at some of the best people who were outside of Coimbatore working elsewhere and want to come back, and this became like a perfect marriage. We gave the opportunity and they gave us the right talent that we needed. So it was like great, and that's kind of what separated us from the rest.
Wow, what a beautiful journey! And then while you were explaining, I think you were disappointed that you lost that one person, which is far cry from traditional than what we are finding now in tech companies, laying off people left, right, center. I mean, like that shows your personality and the culture that you're embedded, caring for every single person within the organization, checking them. I think your team is blessed and you are blessed, Ganesh, on that both ways there. Again, now the company is in a steady state. It's starting its scaling journey, but you might have had a lot of proud moments within the company. A lot of awards for the company, a lot of awards for you, family, intact people. What are some of the proudest moments that you could talk?
See, there are different phases of proud moment, right? Now, if you look at from an 6 years before or 6.5 years before, I was sitting on the other side as an employee, right? Now that I'm on this side as an employer, it doesn't make me superhuman, right? I'm as same Ganesh as I was when I was an employee. Yes, I have more visibility now. I have more control now, and that brings more responsibility also. Like if I look back, we've been rated as the best, work-life balance company. That was something I wanted in the company that I work for. Again, if you look at a lot of stories, Bhaskar, especially startup stories, right? If you look at, they say in the initial days, you have to live the, 2-minute noodle life, ramen noodle, you have to sleep on the floor, you have to, work hard in the startup to build up. Touch wood, we were lucky, we did not do any of those things. We did not slog. We did not, spend so much. Anything that we have done, it's out of our own passion. It's not just because business is struggling, we wanted to do more. It is truly through our passion. If even the employees, for example, I don't know, we don't publicize this one, Bhaskar. I believe we are the only company, as far as I know, been doing this for almost 5 years. Even before COVID, we only worked 4.5 days. Big companies make a big thing. So we have Friday, except the last Friday of the month, we've always kept it, no official meeting, no formal meeting. Friday, 1 o'clock, we officially are off. So we've been maintaining that. Both we used to do that only in India, then we moved that, and once came in COVID, or before even with COVID, that last summer. Now even today we maintain the same thing. So employees feel really happy about it, right? They're really happy, and some of the employees have talked about the benefits that we give. That makes me really proud. Of course, investors, right? If you look at investors, some of the early investors have the best returns they could ask for. Some of the company they invested, when we brought in, our current investors, we gave exit to some small investors who invested in, business. Investors were really happy, and still they feel really good about, getting the returns from, RFPIO. Still they talk, even when I go back to, these are Oregon investors, they still talk about how happy they were on the return. Finally, our customers, right? And look at our, I was there in a couple of, I was there in an executive business review meeting with one of our enterprise customers. If you look at them, how much money and how much time, how much energy we are saving for them, they are considering us as a mission critical platform. Time that we are saving, even very recently we did a case study with Microsoft. It's fulfilling to see how much we are giving back to the customer. Customers are able to save time and energy. Some of our customers even told that they're no longer spending their weekends responding to their automation. So I feel really proud to help our employees, investors, customers are that is the positive energy keep this company moving in the right direction.
What a beautiful response. Thank you. And I know when 6 years ago you mentioned that you are in a small room thinking about yourself, but when the company grow with the employees, you have to adapt yourself. As you rightly said, you didn't plan to be an entrepreneur. It just happened, and that it's all great, but within you should there could be some internal challenges that you need to position yourself. Talk us through about how you adapted yourself, and still be in the phase outside, strong, happy, fulfilling career for your team, but inside you have to work within yourself to be who you are.
Yeah, I think, as a leader of the company, you like I mentioned, you have more power, you have, more control. It also come with a lot more responsibility than, an individual contributor role or a lead role. Every decision that I make today, some or the other way is going to impact employees. I got to be really, really mindful of that, right? So I fundamentally see myself, Bhaskar, not as a boss sitting on top of 450 employees. Rather, I look at myself as a support guy sitting at the bottom to enable my 450 employees to be successful in what they do. Of course, I'm not perfect in any way. Every day is going to be a learning for me, and I have no delusion saying I am a perfect leader. I'm again, like I said, I have my own weak spot. I have my own blind spot. But as long as if I recognize that, I feel like I should not repeat that. It's always people are going to give you a second chance. Get the second chance. Don't repeat that over and over again. So that is where I strongly believe you've got to be empowering your team to do their work at their best. The end of the day, companies are made of people. Companies are for people and made of people. Let them be on their own. And of course, there's going to be, fundamentally, I believe this 80-20 rule, right? When you give more empowerment, more liberty, there's going to be some 20% of people who are going to misuse it. But there's 80% of people. I fundamentally believe these are human beings. When you give them the responsibility, right? They want to show, hey, you gave me this responsibility. I want to prove you gave it to the right person. I want to prove I'm worthy of it. I deserve this. I'm going to show you what. So it is human mentality. You want to show when somebody trusts you, because I strongly believe trust is a two-way street. When somebody is trusting you, and don't micromanage, don't interfere into how they operate. Guide them, coach them, mentor them. That's a different story than of being on their shoulder all the time. So I feel like, yes, the amount of loss this 20% of people are going to make is far more less important than amount of profit or amount of deliverable that you can get out of the 80% people who are doing great work for you. So I don't too much worry about the 20%, but rather focus on the 80% benefit and give the people the time and liberty, the empowerment to be at their best. And again, like I said, I'm no perfect. I'm learning every day. It's a journey. I don't think there is something you can say, okay, you have done that. Every single day is a learning for me, and I take it as an opportunity to improve myself.
Beautiful, Ganesh. So, Ganesh, how do you construct your day? Do you have a pattern, or do you have a ritual, or do you keep it fluid, weekly priorities? How do you generally plan your day, week, month?
Yeah, see, at this stage of the company, we have the right people at the right place doing things. I feel like we have the team to execute. So I don't need to be involved on the day-to-day thing right now. At this stage, my most of my time is spent on building the team to the next level. So I'm talking to more candidates. How can we, we recently got our first CMO. We are talking to a few candidates to hire our sales leadership role. So my time primarily today, I would say, it's been spent in three different ways, right? I'm constantly hiring, and that's where my time is spent. The second is I do talk to our investors. I do maintain a good relationship with other investors who wanted to invest in the business. Though we are not looking to raise any capital, it's good practice to maintain a good relationship, which I do. And then of course, my biggest part is also getting in front of the customers, right? Like I said, I do go to EBRs, executive business reviews, enterprise customers. So that is a pattern. In my day, I would say majority of my day is mostly spent on, spending time with the team and empowering them and hiring.
Nice, brilliant. So I think we talked a lot about the professional part of Ganesh. Let's go and spend some time on the personal part of Ganesh. So I know the company is doing brilliantly, beautiful team around you, and you are happy. Things are working. But what are your hobbies and interests, Ganesh? What do you do when you're free?
Is there really something called hobby for a startup entrepreneur? I was just kidding. So again, I am blessed with two young kids. They take up outside of my work. They take up most of my time, Bhaskar. So every weekday there is some of the other classes are there. There is a badminton class, there is a chess class, there's a Tamil class I could drop them, and swimming class. So it takes up my week, but and I do thoroughly enjoy that, because during the day or other places when I'm traveling, I'm not there for them. But whenever I get a chance, I do want to spend time with my two kids. They are 11 and 9 years old girls, so I do spend as much as time. And of course, I feel fortunate to have a wonderful wife, Sabita, who manages a lot of things at the family front. So whenever we get a chance, we like to travel. We like to go places. We explore a restaurant. But personally, one thing, if I to call out, I do is I do enjoy going to gym, and I do sometimes play badminton. So those are things.
Nice. It's good to have a balance. Brilliant. So, if I ask your two daughters and your wife Savita, tell us for reference about Ganesh, because we have to recruit Ganesh. Give a reference. What do you think they will tell about Ganesh?
Definitely going to tell workaholic. They're going to complain that they need their dad and husband more than what I'm hearing. But that is the honest truth, I guess. I think that has been their complaint, and not physically. They will say, we know because of these days work from home, I'm physically there, but they will say mentally we want our dad to be there, out of his phone, out of his laptop, than what he's down. But I other than that, I do feel like I'm trying my best to be a great husband and a great dad whenever my time permits. But it's very difficult, I know. Again, especially when you run a company, Bhaskar, it's very difficult to have a work-life balance. That's the honest truth. Maybe that is why there is some compromise. The timing wise, there has to be some compromise need to be done. There's nothing called work-life balance. You can balance this and balance that. I feel like there is always, I call it as work-life compromise. Based on the priority, depending on the timing, depending on the situation, you prioritize. You can't be having both of the same balance, but rather prioritize one or the other depending on the situation. So I feel like, but I feel really blessed to have a family like this who understood my nature of the business, and they're putting up with that, and they're living with me on that front. But I do my best whenever I get a chance to be with them.
Nice. I think you rated brilliantly. I think, wherever possible, when we spend time with them, you are giving the best moments with them so that they have that memory. So when you're not there, they have that memory. Then when you come back, you continue with them. Again, that's all we could do in our life and career. I think that's beautifully said. So again, what's your favorite place to go for a vacation?
Coimbatore. Coimbatore, I know they don't call it a vacation, but I know whenever I get a chance, I want to go back. And when people say, when you go to India, do you explore other places? I typically don't do that much often. When I go to Coimbatore, I want to be there. Pretty much, I don't like to travel when I go home. I want to be with parents. I want to be with friends. That is what I feel. I would be really happy than spending my time in a vacation spot. So I really, whenever I get a chance, I want to take it as, take it up to go back to Coimbatore and spend some time with family and friends who I call, very close.
Totally. Again, I was there Coimbatore 3 weeks ago, and I pretty much did exactly what you did. Just was with my friend's family, went to my old school, went to my university there, met my teachers and stuff. That's the best part of it. Yes. By the time you come back, you'll be much more exhausted. It wasn't a vacation, but you are tired. But you are there with them. You're there with your loved ones. That's great. And what's your favorite type of food, Ganesh? What's your favorite?
Generally, I do like Thai everything. Of course, when at home, it is pretty much Indian. But when I go outside, I don't try Indian. I try multiple cuisines. So pretty much, I think at this point of time, I've tried almost all the cuisines. Favorite? Now, there's nothing like favorite, but I can eat anything. But I have certain restrictions when it comes. I don't eat beef. Other than that, I can eat anything. But I don't have a specific favorite thing. But also, if you ask my wife, she would say the same thing, because I don't give too much of importance to food. I'm a quick eater. If I really eat quick, and then I move on. So that's how I am.
Got it. Nice. So if you were to write a book about yourself, what would you name it?
Great question. I don't think I've ever had this question before, so I don't have a prepared answer.
What comes in the mind?
I think never give up, and never give up attitude, and be a learner. I would say be a learner. It could be anything, right? That's, if I look back throughout my life, I was not a studious kid. I've never been a studious kid. I've never gotten the first ranks in the classes, or never gotten the higher best in class marks. But I was always curious to learn and new stuff, new things. I've always been curious in businesses, how people. I'm not talking about massive businesses. I'm talking about solopreneurs, right? People who run small shops, and I've been very curious, and I think I personally feel some of those experiences what helped me to what I am today, and I'm really grateful for that. So if I have to name, be a learner all the time is, be curious is what I would say. Never give up.
There are a few titles that you mentioned. I'm sure that this will give you a teaser for what you're going to write. What's the dream you've never said out loud?
Die peacefully in a place where I really enjoy, without any bothering of anyone. When I die, I should not bother anyone. I should not create problem to any of my surrounding. When I'm in the happiest moment, I should just pass away, and then that's it. I don't think I've ever said this to anyone, but yeah.
And I think, thank you for sharing. I think it's important. It gives the perspective of your life, Ganesh. It's powerful. Thank you for sharing again. What song would you play when you're on your own, and what memories does it bring back?
See, this is also a loaded question. Depends on, so many different songs are there. A lot of those songs are, to do with my native language Tamil songs. So I listen to a lot of Tamil songs. So, there are a lot of songs at different phases of my life. Everything. When you are, in your teenage, that's a different song. Now that I see, especially. A dad of two girls. My current song is different. In between, a song about my mom, parent, my dad were different. So that different memories, different songs bring different memories. So I have a lot of those songs, but it will take another podcast to explain all of that.
Totally. I think at some point we will do a Tamil podcast so we could talk in Tamil and talk about Tamil songs, Tamil things, etc. But that's beautiful. Thank you. And what was your favorite game to play as a child?
Cricket, of course. Cricket is my favorite game.
It's beautiful. And if you could become invisible for a day, what would you do?
Invisible for a day, probably I would sit next to some of the top CEOs and see how they are managing the company. And if I'm invisible, I will sit next to some of the best CEOs and my aspirational leaders next to them and see how they are doing their thing.
What's that one food you could never bring yourself to eat?
You mean I don't like? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that food that you don't like. People try to give you, but you're like.
Like I said, Bhaskar, seriously speaking, none.
Really? You can eat everything?
None. I can't. That is how I grew up. I guess. Again, I was anything that you get is you should be really. Happy about it. So that's how like I said, I come from a very middle class family. So everything that I get is something it's hard earned either by my dad, either by my mom, by myself. So I don't think I have a preference. So anything that I get, I like. Now I for health reasons and being health conscious, I do stay away from sugar or like that. But otherwise, there's nothing in this world, if any, of course, like I said, even beef, for various reasons, I don't eat. It doesn't mean that I don't like it, but I can eat anything as long as it fills my tummy and it is edible. I can eat.
That's beautiful. I mean, like what a blessed child you are. Your parents should be super proud of you. I'll say that when I visit, I'll most probably visit them next time when I go back in Coimbatore and tell them you have a nice son.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So what's the nickname that your friends have given you and what does it mean?
I'll reserve that. I do have a nickname. I probably should reserve that for, again, I'll without naming that, I know when I say that a lot of my friends will people will call me during my early childhood, call me reckless.
Okay.
Because I'm a very hyperactive kid, and my name was, in somewhat in Tamil, it translated into reckless.
Got it. I can relate to it. Nice. So, what would you get every time you go for grocery shopping?
Some chocolates.
Okay.
Some dark chocolates. I do like dark chocolates, so I do get them every time I go.
So what's the best and worst purchases you have ever made?
There's a lot of best purchases. I think that's a question to my wife. She would have a perfect answer for that. Again, yeah. Got it. Like I mentioned that, there are a lot of those things, but I'm little cognitive when it comes to purchases. So, there's so many things I can list on both ends, but we'll reserve it for now.
Oh, wow. Very disciplined there. So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career so far?
To begin with, I think it is my dad, very influential at some point of time. Of course, my wife, she's more entrepreneur than I am. She ran business in Coimbatore before coming to the US. And then, of course, you do have inspirational leaders, like been inspired by Steve Jobs of the world, and they inspire you. But personally speaking, my dad, and I think the most influence I will have to attribute it will be my dad and my wife.
That's powerful. Again, it's amazing how similar we are. And I always say to people, you can say people who you're not related to, but end of the day, it's people who you see, who you have seen in your life, they inspire you a lot more. And that's what is real. Rather than to read a book and say, I'm inspired by X and watch an interview and inspired. It's okay for a few minutes, but it needs to come within. But beautiful. That's
you asked about vacation, right? Again, you asked about vacation, right? If I look back in my parents' time when they used to work and I don't think they've ever taken a vacation. I don't think, even the most vacation they would take is pilgrimage, going to temples. I don't think they took. Today we are talking about going to vacation. Oh, we'll go to this island, that island. They'll take a cruise. All those vacations we're talking about, I personally feel they sacrifice their entire prime time to bring up this generation, including my own, like me and you, and probably your sister or your siblings and mine. I feel like our parents have sacrificed so much, so they did not let us, I would have been the happiest kid back in when I was doing 10th grade if my dad said, okay, go work elsewhere. If he had told me, given me an option, I would have been the first person to raise my hand, and I could have done anything not to go to school. But they did not let me do that but it was not an easy thing. It was a struggle to put me in school, pay the school fees. They did that despite all the trouble that they had. And then, like I mentioned, I don't ever recollect having them taking a personal time off or vacation. Everything was revolving around me. This is a true statement. I've never seen my mom and dad not speak. I've never in my life. Even when they fight, right? Even sometimes I do fight with my wife. Sometimes we keep silent for a day, and next day we speak. I don't think those are things that I've gotten from my dad and mom. They come from a very poor family too, but I don't think I ever recollect my dad and mom not speaking to each other. No matter how big the fight is, I've seen all that they come out and they continue their life. So those are inspirations I've gotten. Similarly, my wife, who sacrificed so much for her career, her life as an entrepreneur, for me to pursue my dreams. I think those are super influential people. I am really grateful to have a family like this.
Wow, that's beautiful. Again, I could ask, what could be that one advice you would like to give fellow entrepreneur? That would be a cliche, but let me skip that question and I'll ask, what do you want to be remembered for, Ganesh?
I want to be remembered, and again, for the good deeds that I want to do. It's not things, because when I grew up, I had certain expectations, I had certain things. I feel like now that I am in a position to do some of those things, I should not change my mindset. I know whatever it be, it education, be it support. Wherever possible, again, I can't solve world's problem, but in my own world, if I can be helpful, I'm a true believer of pay forward. Somebody really helped me in every stage of my life. Somebody has helped me to get there, and I would say in my entire life, people who have positively impacted is much more than people I don't even recollect people who have negatively impacted. There may be small ifs and buts, but I want to be called as like that. Okay, Ganesh helped me this. If somebody can call me out that I would feel like it's a good deed I've done, and it's a pay forward. I will take it. I will be the happiest person.
Wow, that's nice. Thank you. As we end the podcast, Ganesh, is there any part of your life or career, entrepreneurial journey, RFPIO, that we missed, your family life that we missed, or anybody whom you want to talk about before we close the episode?
Again, one thing we didn't touch upon is the friendships. I do think, a lot of my journey has evolved around relationship and friendship than in a third person. Like I said, every stage of my life, there is somebody who kind of made an impact. If I look back, a lot of them are friends who came in my life as friends, who continue to be as a friend. So I think it is important for anybody. I feel like, even for, like you mentioned, you're not asking the question about what advice, but networking and maintaining relationship, there's no point in burning the bridges, right? There is no point in, saying, hey, this is not, taking vendetta or keeping grudge against somebody. I think it's worthless. It's life is too short to have. So I personally feel, you either you like it. If there's something about this, like you just be silent, just move on. You don't focus on that and then move on. So don't create enmity. Don't create enmity. Play with ethics. Play it decent. Play it, straightforward. Don't do anything behind the back.
Wow. Even though I didn't ask you, it was a beautiful end to this podcast. I know I could go long, but the time is here. I know you might be having other things in your diary. So thank you very much for your time today, Ganesh. Wish you, your family, and everybody at RFPIO all the good health and happiness. Continue to inspire us and stay healthy, and speak to you very soon. Lots of love to your family. Yeah.
Thanks, Walker. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Ganesh. Speak to you soon. To our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to subscribe, review, comment on Scribble Tech Leaders Podcast in your favorite podcast channels. Please do visit patchescribble.com/Tech Leaders Podcast to listen to this episode and all the previously recorded podcast episodes. I will see you in the next podcast episode where I interview another special tech leader. Until then, it's Bhaskar Sundaram signing off.